Hey everybody, I'm excited to talk to you today about sex in the single life. So what do I even mean by that? We're going to get into the vulnerability of it all, finding partners, putting yourself out there, initiating, consent, all sorts of things. So I am excited that you could join us for that. So we are going to do the review of the week, which I forgot to pull up, so I'm pulling up now. But there's been some awesome reviews. So I do want to just thank you guys for the reviews. It is just like a delight for me to read them. All right, here we go. So the review of the week, and remember, if this is your review, if you hear your review, reach out to us. The email address is in the show notes. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, you can just scroll down. The other ones, you might have to go to the episode details. So this one says, educational and fun. These can be uncomfortable questions and conversations sometimes, but the conversations are honest, inviting, and frankly, wildly educational. Excellent listen that your partner will appreciate as much as you do. Love that. Very good thing to share with your partner. And I think I've mentioned this before, that sometimes bringing up sex with our partner can feel really sensitive and vulnerable. And sometimes people can feel attacked. And so we just, don't want to make them feel too attacked. So sharing like a neutral resource, whether it's a podcast, a book, an article, something like that, can really help people be open to it. And I would say, pick the format that they are most likely to listen to. So if your partner doesn't really read books, like maybe pick an audiobook or an article or something that they'll actually be likely to do. We're going to get into our topic today. I want to start by talking about putting yourself out there. So when you are single, or if you're polyamorous and dating or in an open relationship, but regardless, when you're putting yourself out there with a new person, it's vulnerable, right? And I think like all of our stuff can come up, right? Like, are we feeling attractive? Are we good enough? Do we have our shit together? Even one I think doesn't get talked about enough, but I've experienced on both ends, is people don't have enough bandwidth, right? So I've been in situations where I'm kind of like, my focus is just kind of elsewhere, right? Or I'm kind of tapped out, or I'm managing some health issues, or, whatever it is. And I've also dated someone in that position where, they're in a new job, or they're dealing with depression, or they're pretty newly sober, or some other fashion of, getting their shit together. That's a real thing. So, and I think that's important to realize going in. Now, we don't want to get to the point where we're being so perfectionistic, where it's like only if we're the best version of ourselves that we have ever been can we put ourselves out there. No, right? Because then no one's going to date. And then it's like, are we expecting perfection from other people then? That's not what this is about. If you happen to be at your best ever and feeling the best about yourself, amazing. But chances are that's not the case, right? So cutting yourself some slack, accepting yourself for the age you are, for the weight you are, for the wrinkles you have, for the emotional baggage you have, for whatever your financial situation is. I think it's really important that we remember, those external factors aren't who we are at the core, right? And I've talked about self-energy in other episodes. And so I'll reference the IFS episodes in the show notes if you want to go back and look into the self-energy thing. But long story short, self-energy is our higher consciousness, our best self, calm, confident, clear-headed, creative, curious about the world, just kind of feeling connected to all of it. And I'm saying all this because I want you guys to realize, like, that's who you are. That's who all of us are at the core of our being. And it's very, very cool. So remembering that, like, even if maybe that's not what's at the forefront, just knowing that, like, that is there, that is your essence, and leaning in. This is where we can also use the law of attraction. And then I have that episode, I think it's number 10, about the sexual placebo effect, where I kind of get more into the law of attraction. But, feeling attractive, what makes you feel attractive? Can you lean more into that? Right? And I've worked with clients with, body image issues and concerns. They start going to the gym for like 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden they're feeling better. Has their body changed? Have they gained a bunch of muscle or lost a bunch of weight? No, but they're just taking care of themselves. And so each action we take is sending us a message. And it's sending us a message about how we feel about ourselves. Are we treating ourselves like we're good enough? Are we treating ourselves with care and love? It's like if we're showing up for ourselves and taking care of our body, regardless of what the result is, we're sending that message. And I think that applies with dating or seeking a sexual partner as well. Like, are you sending yourself the message that you're not good enough as you are? And I also want to be careful here to say that doesn't mean you should never work on your health first or get your money in order first, because sometimes we want to do that for ourselves, right? Sometimes we want to just focus on something for ourselves first before we give dating so much bandwidth and attention. And so the idea here, as you hear me say probably all the time, is making a conscious choice, right? So we're not going with the default of here's what my checklist of what I should have in order. We're really checking with ourselves and seeing like what feels authentic and what feels right. And to be fully transparent with you guys, I'm a single sex therapist, so that's always an adventure. When I actually applied for sex school, as I call it, officially it was the Sexual Health Certificate Program at University of Michigan, but it's more fun to call it sex school. So when I applied for sex school, you would write a little essay, and that's what my essay was about. I was like, it's hard enough dating as a therapist because you're constantly greeted with, oh, you're analyzing me, or like, oh, I go to therapy, let me tell you like all of my innermost baggage on a first date, or like, oh man, my ex could really use you, or my mom could use you, so you just kind of get the same like 3 recycled lines. And so I'm like, oh God, no, I'm going to add sex therapist to that. It's going to be a nightmare. But I was like, okay, I can handle it. It's going to be all right. And the last person I dated was like, oh, well, it is kind of intimidating, but I've reflected on it and decided it's ultimately a good thing. And I was like, okay, I appreciate that. Anyways, but the idea is it's okay to focus on other things. And so I'm in a place with my life where I want to focus on my health. I want to focus on my business. I want to focus more on friendships than dating. And I will also be clear, if someone really hot and amazing comes along, I'm not going to say no, but it's not where my attention is going right now. And I'm allowing myself to be intentional about that, which again, I also have this story of, oh my God, am I going to be like the sexless sex therapist? Like, what is happening to me, right? But it's important to remember, sex therapists are just people. Same applies to other professions. Doctors are just people. Nobody has all their shit together. We're all just a bunch of humans with like no idea what they're doing half the time. And that's actually what I love about my job is like I get to see that. I get to see that all these amazing, beautiful, super intelligent, accomplished people are also flawed. Because that is like the definition of humanity. And so that's how I want you guys to approach dating, with compassion for yourself, with compassion for the people that you're dating, right? And it doesn't mean don't have standards and don't have boundaries. And we're going to get into that as well. But it does mean let go of the perfection, right? And just tune in to like, what do you actually want right now? What feels fun to you? What feels kind of interesting? What are you curious about? And lean into that. So if it's health and work and friendship, like where I'm at right now, amazing. And if it's dating and sex and finding new partners, also super amazing, right? Part of being single, I think it's interesting because we can go through different phases like that. We can go through different phases where we have different focuses, where it's like a career focus or it's a health focus or it's a travel focus and, different hobbies, maybe it's like, cool, I'm going to start a band, or maybe it's like, I'm going to take up painting and like nurture my creative side. So we can really decide what to focus on and, not have anybody else to run it by. So that's one of the fun benefits of being single. I also think that can apply in a relationship, but just understanding that we are going to go through those phases and it's all good and it's normal. So that's how you feel about yourself. What about finding someone to have sex with? What about the other person, right? Because that involves, either dating apps, which is kind of the common way to go these days, really, or getting out there and meeting people. And so that can really bring up different things for us. We might find out, how are we thinking about these potential people that we might be meeting? Are we thinking, oh God, are they going to like me? Or are we thinking, oh God, am I going to like them? Right? And that actually can give you kind of a hint on your attachment style, which is fascinating. So if you're kind of feeling, oh God, are they going to like me? That might mean that you lean more towards anxious attachment. And if you're thinking, oh God, am I going to find anyone I like? That might mean you're leaning more towards avoidant attachment. So good thing to be aware of Good thing to notice, like, where do insecurities come up? Where do I have stories, right? Dating apps provoke so many stories for people. Dating apps suck. Online dating sucks. I can't meet anyone on these apps. Everyone on there is a waste of time and a flake, and no one ever meets up, and I swipe these people, and, they don't even ever message me, or the only messages I get are these, like, half-assed, like, what's up? Hi, how's your day? And I will say, percentage-wise, y'all are factually correct with these things that you're stating. But is that the energy you want to go with? Is that going to create the best result for you in your dating life? If that's where your mindset and your energy is? What if your mindset is like, okay, if I put in, 15 to 30 minutes a day swiping and messaging people, I'm probably going to have a date every week, right? I'm going to meet new people. I'm going to figure out what I like. What if I could just totally let go of the outcomes of, if I keep dating these people, if I wind up in a relationship, if I find someone to marry or to have kids with or to spend the last part of my life with, or wherever you're at in your life, what if you just let go of that? And it's like, oh, well, I kind of wanted to check out some museums. It'd be fun to have someone to do these things with. I live in Florida, so we have lots of outdoor stuff. Maybe you want to go kayaking with somebody. Maybe, there's live music you're wanting to check out that your friends aren't as into, and like dating can be a vehicle for that. So finding something good, no matter how the date goes, can be so helpful, right? And I know that when I'm having the most fun dating, because I have dated a lot historically, when I'm having the most fun, it's just like, I'm going to make this fun regardless of what the other person's like. I'm going to pick something I want to do anyways. I'm going to be a little proactive about it. Then you kind of just have a great time, and it's like a win-win. And then if you happen to also like the person or have some chemistry, amazing, even better, right? So follow the fun. Let's have that be our mantra. Follow the fun. That's one you can use regardless of relationship status. And it's okay to take a break. So if dating is not feeling fun, if you're just not able to get into that mindset right now, it's okay to take a break, right? I am not that person that's going to be like out there fucking like rabbits all the time. Like, do your thing, right? And sometimes being really authentic, going out there and putting yourself out there and saying like, hey, I do want a relationship and I do want to go out and meet different people and learn from it and have a good time. Awesome. Own that. Go out there and be like the most you that you can possibly be. And also being authentic might be like, I'm going to take a break right now and focus on other areas. And that actually feels really like nurturing and like self-love to me right now, right? Like I explained, that's the case for me right now. So that's what's up with that. Now, let's say we get to the next stage and you actually do meet somebody. You're kind of into them. And it seems like they're kind of into you. It's new, right? And it's fresh. And you don't fully know each other, and you probably don't like 100% have that comfort level established yet. And so there's going to need to be communication, and you don't know each other's communication style. So there's kind of a lot to talk about, right? And even when you get into the early stages of a relationship, people talk about this, even through like the first year of marriage, like you're really figuring out how does this person communicate? What are their values? What do they tend to do when they get stressed? What do they do when they're nervous? But when you're first dating and getting to the place of, becoming sexual with somebody, you don't know any of this. And so then you got to figure out communication. But this is why dating is beautiful, actually, because it's an opportunity to practice, becoming more secure in relationship, to practice your communication skills, to practice navigating consent and sexual boundaries, and to practice being really authentic. So if you're somebody who struggles with being like a people pleaser, probably the number one actually, but who struggles with that, which many of us do, to push yourself to be authentic. Right? And a lot of times I've worked with clients who've said, I can't bring that up so early on. We've only gone on 3 or 4 dates. And I'm like, yes, you can. And personally, I want somebody who responds well to me just being like straightforward and authentic. And so if that's your preferred communication style, don't hold back at the beginning, because then they're going to think you're like this, little like tiptoeing around things, delicate flower person. And if that's not really your style, then just don't do it. So it's a good opportunity for that. And I do have other episodes on consent and boundaries. So the number 12, Why Consent is Sexy AF. You can check that out. And then the Healthy Sexual Boundaries is episode 17. So you can check that one out as well. So I'm not going to go into like major detail on those. I do want to say a few things. So yes, push yourself to be authentic. If you are not feeling it sexually, say it, right? Don't kind of traumatize yourself by like going along with something. You're not doing anyone any favors. Also give yourself the opportunity to see how someone reacts to taking a no. Are they gracious about it? Do you still feel safe with them? Or do you realize like, ooh, this is not a safe person? Thank God I found this out before I had sex with them, right? Because again, really pro sex here, but like I wouldn't do this job. But sex is not without risks, right? There's different sexually transmitted infections we can get depending on, if you're a person with a womb and of childbearing age, there's potential pregnancy implications if you or your partner is in that scenario. If it could happen. So be mindful of that and make sure that you are screening things properly. So if you guys are curious about healthy sexual boundaries and how I would kind of define that, I do have a free checklist for you guys. So you can grab it at heathershannon.co/freebies. And it's literally just called Healthy Sexual Boundaries. I actually have a handful of freebies on that page, but the Healthy Sexual Boundaries is great because it prompts you to look at what's going on in my body. Like, am I feeling aroused? Am I feeling attracted? Am I feeling safe? Is this somebody I can have a conversation with about, STIs and stuff? Okay, cool. Great. Or is it like, I'm really approaching this because I'm just feeling a little needy and I just want some touch and I just want to feel wanted, but this person doesn't seem like they're in a great place. The vibes are like a little bit off, and so that's what we really need to kind of reflect on if it's feeling authentically safe and comfortable for us. So push yourself to be authentic. And then I did mention your insecure attachment might also get triggered. Dating, frankly, can be a bit of an emotional roller coaster. And when I say dating, I'm using that term a little bit loosely. So this could also just be, hunting for a sex partner. If you're on like Adult Friend Finder or FetLife or something, like I don't care what website you're on, but I'm just using the term dating in terms of meeting a new person, who you may become intimate with at some point. So it can be a roller coaster though, right? So we've already established like it's going to challenge you with, consent, with boundaries, with being clear what you're looking for, with communication skills, with attachment style, with believing in, that the type of person you're looking for is out there and believing you're good enough. So, these are some pretty core areas of who we are, right? So just cut yourself some slack is kind of what I want to say. Like, this is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart in many ways. I remember I had a therapist who, I'm thinking this was during grad school. So when I was getting my master's in counseling, I was seeing a therapist and I think I was dating or exploring dating. And she was like, dating is the process of hurting and being hurt. And I remember thinking and I loved her. I remember thinking fuck you, Shisha. That was her name. I was like, what the fuck? Why are you telling me that? And, now I realize she's somewhat right. I probably wouldn't use those exact words, but we have to kind of be ready for that. We have to be in a healthy enough mental place that we can take care of ourselves and manage our emotions and, handle a little bit of that up and down emotionally. So hopefully at this point, if you've been listening to some of the other episodes, you're prepared. I do have episode 3, which is the emotions of sex. And I know I'm mentioning so many more episodes than I normally do, but we will link to all of those in the show notes. And again, you can just scroll down on Apple Podcasts and find the show notes. So I hope this stuff is helpful. Check out the free Healthy Sexual Boundaries checklist. Again, that's heathershannon.co/freebies. And reach out. I love to hear from you guys. So do not hesitate to find me on Instagram. All those links again are in the show notes. Find me, on Facebook. We actually have a free Facebook community too for podcast listeners. And when I'm doing listener Q&A episodes, or if I'm going to be looking for someone who wants to be coached on the podcast, I will always go to that group first. So anyways, thank you all for listening and can't wait to catch you next week with another fun episode. Bye, guys.